Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, I believe this comes from Homeschoolers Anonymous. It's a little bit of an older article, but very, very good in my opinion. A real investigation into IBLP, June 25th, 2014. IBLP headquarters in Oak Brook, Illinois. Okay, Jerry Laughlin blogs at Heresy in the Heartland. The following was originally published by Jerry on June 22nd, 2014, and is reprinted with permission. Thoroughness. Knowing what factors will diminish the effectiveness of my work or words, if neglected. Bill Goddard. You guys know what happened with him. Bill Goddard's buddy, David Gibbs Jr., has now completed his investigation into allegations made against Goddard by former IBLP staff members. According to the IBLP board earlier this week. Wish I had what that IBLP stands for. I'll get that eventually, you guys. The board sought the facts through a confidential and thorough review. Yeah, you can trust that. Process conducted by outside legal counsel, so they say. Many people were interviewed, including former board members. What is the deal with all these board members? Some of these board members just want money and power. You guys know what's up. Current and past staff members, current and past administrators, parents and family members. At this point, based upon those willing to be interviewed, no criminal activity has been discovered. Isn't this the same story we always hear? Just like the JWs, all that sexual abuse of the children, and then they needed two witnesses to, something like they need two witnesses or two people to address the sexual abuse in the Jehovah's Witness, and nobody does anything. Kind of like LAPD trying to police themselves, right? Which we know that doesn't work. But according to the team at Recovering Grace, not one of the women who have shared their stories on our site were personally contacted by Gibbs Jr. Of course not. Or his investigative team. Oh, we should put narcissistic investigative team just for an extra. Including Charlotte, who alleged molestation. Well, you guys got to give it to them. Covering up sexual abuse in our country and throughout the world, they get good at it. They love R-ing the children. Gets them off. Perhaps Gibbs Jr. needs to brush up on his character qualities. Smelling narcdom. It would seem that Gibbs' investigation focused narrowly on certain allegations of sexual impropriety, some of which Goddard has admitted to, resulting in his resignation. You guys know what happened later with that whole thing, too. It was not good. It was good in some ways, but for the little girls, it was bad. However, this is but the sensational tip of the iceberg and ignores the broad scope of hurtful, unethical, and even illegal activities that have damaged numerous lives associated with the Institute in Basic Life Principles. Can't help but think of the Aftermath Foundation. Goddard promoted his organization as giving the world a new approach to life. In following God's non-optional principles, a ministry that prides itself on being under authority should have nothing to fear from the truth. And yet the testimonies of some former students and staff members paint a disturbing picture. Where have we heard that before? Just like all these ex-Scientologists that want to cover up the child abuse. Some of these stories of life under the auspices of the Institute have been published on Recovering Grace. Others have been shared more privately. Some victims are willing to have their names attached to their experiences, while others prefer anonymity or pseudonyms. You know, like all these Jane Does we're seeing right now. And the evil ones are trying to take that away as well. Each of the incidents outlined below could likely be explained away on its own. But taken together, they suggest a pattern. They suggest a pattern of criminal activity that I believe is worthy of deeper examination. The board of IBLP can write, "We dedicate ourselves to help build up families." Yeah, you know, by sexually abusing the kids and individuals. But if these situations actually took place, the Institute's so-called ministry is a farce. With or without Goddard, an IBLP should be shut down to prevent further abuse of power. Aftermath Foundation. What's the other one? This is my opinion, and opinions are free. The child. What's that other? The board for the children that allegedly they're helping children that are abused, and the dirty lawyer got disbarred, or he was going to be disbarred. Birds of a feather, you guys. Always surrounded by lawyers, too. A real investigation of IBLP might look into allegations of the following. These are very good notes to compare the same types of violations, breaking of laws, violating codes, etc., in Scientology in 2024. So in 2024, there's no statute of limitations when the crimes are currently going on. Just for some of the cops that are kind of like, ugh, statute of limitations. OSHA and other code violations at all locations. Indianapolis, Oak Brook, Elms Plantation, Oklahoma City, Eagle Mountain, Eagle Springs, Northwoods, Big Sandy, Flint, South Campus, Little Rock, Nashville, and others. For example, lack of permits. Oh my goodness, you guys, where have we seen that before? Lack of permits. Where have we seen lack of permits? Inquiring minds want to know, where have we seen lack of permits? LAPD. Illegal remodeling. Dredging a lake without a permit. So you see, they all do the same stuff. Improper electrical wiring. I personally believe that blue building over there in LA is, I don't want anything bad to happen, but my personal opinion is that it's a fire waiting to happen. And that's unfortunate. Poor fire safety. Oh, where have we heard that one before? Hiding fire extinguishers and fire poles behind paintings or decor items. Yeah, I wonder if the blue building is up to code on their fire extinguishers. Silencing a monitored fire alarm to avoid disrupting conferences. Huh, that sounds exactly like Scientology. Not reporting fires to fire department. Oh, kind of like not reporting crimes to the police. Although the police that I've seen, they seem to be fine with that. Do you guys remember there was a strange incident that went on with some of the protesters? And this guy, I don't remember the exact details, but he came out. He was a former dentist, and he assaulted someone. And when the Los Angeles Police Department came, I mean, it was so surreal. The police officers were saying, well, they won't let us come in. Like, are you kidding me? The police officers were saying, they won't let us come into the building. I mean, like, what in the F is going on here? Not reporting fires to fire department. Improper supervision. Oh, this is Scientology all day, every day. We had Danny Montalvo, he lost his finger. We had the Moxon girl, allegedly. It was an accident. I don't believe it was an accident. We have Serge Oblensky, who was not being supervised as a teenager, and he lost both of his arms. Improper supervision, letting teens work on upper story building exterior or fire escapes without safety harnesses. Yeah, they're not, Scientologists are not using any of the safety protocols for anything, no matter what kind of work anyone's doing. Injuries. Electrical shocks from unsafe practices. The Moxon girl who died of electrocution. I think it was purposeful. It's my opinion that it was purposeful. Minors injured while operating power tools. Oh, wait, like Danny Montalvo, who lost his one of his index fingers. Does that count? Cutting off a finger, is that enough of an accident for anyone to do anything about it? F him, I guess, right? When he tried to sue Scientology. Carbon monoxide poisoning of kitchen volunteers. Wow. Faulty elevators. Violations of residential occupancy limits. I personally, too, with that blue building, well, you know, the blue building and the surrounding buildings over there, to me, and I'm not an expert in that field at all, it does not look like all the fire escapes and all that are accessible to people. And that's because they don't want people escaping. So that means if there's a fire in that blue building or any of those buildings over there, that people are going to be trapped like rats. And in the LAPD, they're okay with it. The city politicians, they're totally fine with that. Fire department in Los Angeles, they're fine with that. They're fine with people being trapped like rats in those buildings if a fire occurs, which I feel is a highly likely possibility. And you know that nothing's up to code. You guys know that. Violations of residential occupancy limits. Yeah, there we go. That's blue building. And as far as that goes, all their other buildings. It's everything they do is illegal. It's not legal to have like 6 and 7 people per room to one bathroom. That's not legal. Prayer rooms, especially at 2820 North Meridian, Indianapolis. Oh, listen to this, you guys. You see, they all do the same stuff. Preying on children. Locking minors in solitary... Hold on. Locking minors in solitary confinement without notifying parents. Now, what does this sound like? How many times have we heard about the children in Scientology that are locked up in these little rooms because they're put on ethics. How many times have we heard it? Over and over and over in black and white. There's so much evidence. It's unreal how much evidence is out there for children being locked up in little rooms in Scientology. And the LAPD signs off on it. The fire department of Los Angeles signs off on it. The politicians of Los Angeles totally sign off on it. Even given the fact that all of it is illegal. I mean, in your face, you know. Locking minors in solitary without access to a restroom. How many times have we heard about that? I remember, if you guys go back and look at that Australian, I can't think of what his name is right now, Shane, the blonde Australian Scientologist, handsome young man who escaped when he got a little older. He was locked in a room, some tiny little room underneath a stairwell, not allowed a bathroom. And they do this a lot. They make the children go to the bathroom in a bucket. How many violations do we have there? Child Protective Services. We have laws being broken. We have neglect. Not to mention unsanitary conditions when the children are forced to use the restroom in creative ways because they have to use the restroom. It's disgusting. Withholding food or medication. Yeah, well, you guys know. Spanking minors without parental consent. Wally Hanks come to mind, you guys. Of course, they did give consent. I guess what they did in that situation is the parents just sign over guardianship to the, they sign the guardianship over to the ranch or wherever they are. Los Angeles Police Department, look at this one. Turns out this is a thing. Failure to protect children by reporting abuse. How about that? Failure to report sex acts with or molestation or attempted sexual molestation of minors in IBLP's care at the ITC, Roger Giorgini. Turns out that's against the law. Can you imagine? Hiring children is illegal, you guys. Did you guys know this? Crazy. Failure to report sexual abuse of minors in ATI families. Bill Goddard. Los Angeles Police Department. Guess what? It turns out, this is so crazy, turns out that hiring children, or, you know, a lot of people are like forced sex acts with children, it's illegal. Not to mention heinous. Pressure on homeschool victims not to report physically abusive parents. Of course. Shaming victims of sexual assault. Wait a minute, that's the same as when they tell various people like Miriam Francis or other children that were sexually abused in Scientology. You know what they do? Because in case you guys didn't know, I got to tell you, because most people don't take the time to learn. They tell the child that they're out 2D. They're out a second dimension, which is sex and marriage category. They blame the child for getting hard by an adult who's like, you know, 3 times their size. Right? And then Serge Domar went through similar, exact, you know, like this. And guess what? Then they're punished, just like they punish the children in the Jehovah's Witness. They do the same thing. They punish the child for being hard by an adult who's like 2 to 3 times their size. Further punished, put in the RPF, which in case you don't know, I know it's kind of hard to read online nowadays. RPF is the Rehabilitation Project Force, which actually, check it out, totally illegal, but it's a child prison. It's a child prison. It's where the children that are hard in Scientology go. Shaming victims of sexual assault and neglecting to counsel them to contact police. Not like the police always do anything anyways. And some of the police do try. I'm not going to put it all on the police. You know, what are you going to do? Have like 2 LAPD cops that are decent fighting the entire multi-billion-dollar corporation of Scientology? Pressuring ATI moms not to divorce abusive husbands. Where have we heard that before? Scientology does the same thing. Or they actually really love for the people to get divorced because isolation is easier to control. Not to divorce abusive husbands who posed a danger to the children. It's always the same thing. Educational neglect. Failure to educate homeschooled minors who were sent to IBLP centers by their parents. Using ACE curriculum for children sent by the courts. Violation of child labor laws. Violation of child labor laws. Children 9 to 10 years old working in the kitchen or cleaning bathrooms. I mean, could it be more cookie cutter? Could it be more cookie cutter? Scientology, they insist on the children being the cooks and the kitchen workers. We've heard this over and over repeatedly. Same thing with cleaning bathrooms. How many stories have we heard from the children of Scientology forced to clean bathrooms? Often with toothbrushes, sometimes with metal brushes. You know, it's to entrain the mind. Sometimes rising as early as 4 or 5 a.m. to work. Same thing in Scientology. They have, the 6 a.m. muster? It's usually 6 a.m. Same thing. All these children in the RPF forced to get up 4:30 or 5 in the morning, shower. There's not enough showers for the people, so they don't get enough time they get like 5 or 10 minutes to shower if they're lucky. Unpaid teenagers working 12 to 18-hour days in the hotels. There we go with the hotels again. What's the deal with the hotels, you guys? Cooking, industrial laundry, cleaning hotel rooms. Scientology kids, same thing. Celebrity Center, how many times have we heard about the children cleaning out the hotel rooms at the Celebrity Center? How many times have we heard it? And what's the Harrison Hotel in Clearwater, Florida? All the children cleaning up the hotels there. I mean, I showed pictures. There's actually online, there's pictures of these children doing this stuff. Don't worry, Scientology. You'll never be able to scrub it all. I know you want to, but you can't. Cleaning hotel rooms and public restrooms. Laura FM talked about how she had to do a lot of that as a child. Selling teens unaccredited degrees without adequate explanation of their value. I remember reading a similar story. I can't remember the details of it, but Scientology does something similar to this, to supposedly, I say in quotations, pass the regulations of getting certain credits for school. And I don't remember the details because there was a lot to it, but they got it down. When it comes to getting around laws and stuff, they got it down to an art. But that is only with the participation of these governing agencies. It wouldn't happen if they were not participating in following laws the way they're supposed to be followed. Facts. Forced fasting. On weekends, designated prayer days, and other times when meal preparation was inconvenient. Though some children were sent there by the state, and other students paid for room and board. Only 2 meals were served on Saturday and only supper on Sunday. That's neglect. I must be the only genius that can figure this out, huh? Sometimes only 2 meals a day were served for weeks in a row. It's malnutrition. Requiring students to turn in care packages. Oh, that's Scientology. They can't. All of their mail is censored, gone through. All of their packages, censored, gone through. Oftentimes, and I think Jenna Miscavige talked a little bit about how when she was going to get married to her husband, they weren't married yet, how they had a room, or they had, I don't remember how it went, if they had separate rooms, and then when they got married, then they were able to have their own room. But I remember her talking about in her book that you could just be moved from your room. So you'd have a room, you'd have all your stuff set up, and then you're working on staff, as a minor, which is illegal, but what do I know? You're working as a minor illegally, and then you come home to your little room that's all you've got, and they've moved all your stuff. So it's like the Brave New World, you own nothing and be happy or something. I don't know if that's from Brave New World, but also mandatory weight checks. Now that's misogyny. For staff women, involuntary diets, forced exercise. It's also MK Ultra. Failure to recognize eating disorders such as anorexia, even when girls were passing out. You see, like the misogyny in our country is real, bro. I mean, it goes throughout the world. It's not just America, but misogyny is real in America, man. And it's also, you cannot have a misogynist that is not a narcissist. They do not exist without each other. It doesn't, because it's based on hatred. And what they don't know is a misogynist actually hates himself. That's what it is. Medical neglect. Now, where have we heard that before? Withholding or confiscating prescription medication, including antidepressants, an asthma inhaler, post-surgery pain medication. Well, just listen to Tori Christman's story. Even though she was an adult, it's the same thing. They do the same to the children. And especially if a child is psychotic, hallucinating, visual or auditory hallucinations, they do not allow them to take the antipsychotic medication, which often in turn ends up in people being killed. But, no big deal, right? Mothers being killed or, family members being killed. Not a problem. Refusal to get prompt medical treatment for severe burns. Well, this whole thing is Scientology. Who was it? Trying to remember. Oh, it was I believe it was. Who was it? No, Lara FM talked about how she had a really serious concussion. That was awful. She had a really serious concussion, and they didn't send her to the doctor. That wasn't bad enough, right? They, of course, made her go straight back to work, having a severe concussion. And then they chastised her because now they had to take money out of the medical fund to help her. I don't know what they did, what they used the money for. I can't remember. But they didn't get her help. And also, I remember Liz Ferris having a story. Who else? As a child, by the way, of being medically neglected. There's numerous accounts. Refusal to get prompt medical treatment for severe burns, broken bones, concussions. Well, I mean, Danny Matavo, he had to cut his finger off. Pneumonia, collapsed lung, high fevers, torn ligaments, acute food poisoning. Many former students trace chronic health problems to untreated conditions that arose at training centers. It's facts. I mean, listen to the book that I'm reading right now, Skythe Telepo. Look at how heinously he was treated and the other children were treated at the lower ranch. It's bad. Treating injuries with alternative remedies such as sugar water injections. Dr. Hemwell. What is that nasty stuff they give people? Malcag or something? They have some niacin and all that craziness. Letting doctors or dentists with revoked licenses treat students at training centers. That's Scientology. Campaign ethics. Sending youth to campaign for Indianapolis judicial and mayoral candidates. Wow, you guys. See how high up the chain it goes? Providing private services to a public official. You guys, I can't say too much on that one. Lieutenant Governor Mary Fallin in Oklahoma. You guys know. Employer issues. Pressuring employees not to record overtime on timesheets. I've even been through that. Guess what happened to me? I got fired. B thought she was going to have me working all kinds of crazy hours and not pay me. Not today, baby. Advising employees that submitted overtime hours would not be paid. Well, that's going on all throughout America right now. And then they whine when nobody wants to work for them. Mandatory unpaid evening work teams for employees. Washing dishes, cleaning carpets, scrubbing bathrooms. Paying less than minimum wage, paying minimum wage minus rent. This is all trafficking. All of it is. Firing employees without due process or notice. Well, now they can do that anywhere. What do they call it? You know what they call it? At-will employment. Ooh. So I remember when that came out, I was like, well, at-will employment, then that means I can just walk off the job whenever I want to. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Firing employees without due process or notice. Refusal to pay workers' compensation. Instructing employee to lie to hospital staff to protect the ministry. Ooh, who does that sound like? No bad PR. Scientology. Praising employees who gave up their paycheck to become volunteers. Oh, let my people go. Allowing children under 16 to work more than 20 hours a week. Well, that's everything Scientology is. And imagine all these politicians signing off on this. Imagine that. Sexual harassment of junior staff or students by adult staff. Well, how much have we heard about that in Scientology? Those men be liking those young girls. Oh, they like them young. They can't have like an adult woman. They got to have the kids. Perverts. Pedophiles. Alert. Physical abuse, medical neglect, solitary confinement, unsafe equipment, psychological abuse. Scientology check. Refusal to contact parents regarding medical emergencies. Scientology check. Keeping 4 teens tied together by feet for an entire day resulting in injury. A unit of underdressed teen boys. Oh, like Nathan Rich, who wasn't allowed real clothes for how long when he was at the ranch in Scientology. They really like to pick on the boys too. You know why? Because the boys are competition for these old-ass men that want these young girls. It's so sick, you guys. It's just so sick. No paternal instinct, no maternal instinct. It's perverse. A unit of underdressed teen boys standing outdoors in sub-freezing temperatures at night. Sorry. until one confessed to a minor infraction. Huh, sounds like Wally Hanks. Disregard for basic safety precautions. Well, yeah, we got that. Oh, listen to this, you guys. Doesn't this sound familiar? Mistreating Russian orphans in Moscow and at Indianapolis South Campus. Foster families spanking children and even teens. Children spanked for minor misdeeds. English speakers spanking Russian child without an interpreter present. Oh my God. Didn't Serge Delmar talk about all the immigrant children that were brought into Scientology? Well, I mean, he's talked about it a little bit, how they didn't understand English. And I've read so many accounts of these poor little babies just thrown in there to do all this manual labor, and they don't understand English, and they cry all the time. It was horrible. So many accounts, but I guess the United States government's fine with all that. They don't have a problem. Withholding meals from children. Yeah, we've heard about that how many times? For disciplinary purposes, or feeding them only dry rolled oats and water. Let somebody do some shit like that in front of me. Let them try it. Let them try. Child labor reports of children required to clean toilets at 5 a.m. Isn't it something that they all have the same obsession with children cleaning the toilets? They are obsessed with it. Narcissists. Using orphans to encourage financial donors. Restricted communication from training centers. Well, they all do the same thing. Every single place. There's so many forms of control on communication in Scientology. It's unreal how many controls. Limited access to public phones, email, fax, or internet. Almost makes me think all of this is a concerted effort and creation by secret societies, but, you know, what do I know? Reading students' outgoing or incoming mail, Scientology. Confiscating mail or making students open mail in presence of a leader. Why don't we just change leader to narcissist? Censoring outgoing mail, check. Telling students what to tell or not tell their parents about situations at the training center. That would be handling. They even call it handling in Scientology. Limiting who a student or employee was allowed to correspond with outside. Restricting conversation or interaction between fellow students. Psychological abuse. Lengthy, repetitive, or mild, middle of the night, counseling sessions, berating and brainwashing. Restricting sleep. Yeah, it's a big one. That's MK Ultra. Piping loud music into bedrooms. Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't that sound like Scientology piping out all the garbage music when people were protesting? And they did that also too, right in the North Korea, South Korea, all that. Assigning staff to night duties on consecutive nights, along with their day jobs. They don't give a fuck about us. Requiring student to wash clothing by hand until she had earned the privilege of using the laundry facilities. Oh, that's that shaming stuff. It's narcissism. Requiring staff to recite extensive Bible passages before breaking a fast. It's just like the policies in Scientology. Remember when the little kid was getting almost beaten to death by Wally Hanks? And he kept asking what the policy was? And ignorant, drunk, loser, pedophile Wally Hanks couldn't even tell him the policy. Confiscating clocks. Well, that's another good way to control people. Hour of forced labor intended to break will or conquer rebellion. Oh yeah, like the ranches and the schools in Scientology, where they don't let them eat decent food have decent clothing, have even a clean bed to sleep on, or even given a pillow, like Nathan Rich was not allowed a pillow. Neglect, abuse. Violations of privacy. Not permitting students to take bathroom breaks or use the restroom alone or with the door closed. Scientology, check. Confiscating personal items such as clothing, music, photographs, medication, and cell phones. Scientology, check. Miscellaneous. Sending unreported cash through customs on staff member's person. Exaggerating or misrepresenting facts in newsletters. Well, that's Scientology all day, every day. Promotional video about alert describing a pilot rescue omitted the fact that it was Alert's own plane that crashed while taking aerial photos of the property. Personal gifts of cash or clothing from Goddard to his favorites. Discrimination against males who appeared too effeminate and females who were overweight or not feminine enough. That's similar to all the gay hatred in Scientology. Photoshopping hair, clothing, and landscaping for newsletter photos. Well, propaganda, you know. Selling overpriced plant kits to ATI families under fraudulent advertising. Well, that's everything in Scientology. Selling them the books, the courses, all of it. You know, in most circles it's called fraud, but I guess governments don't know how to, I don't know, they lost the memo or something. Transferring minors across state lines. How many times have we talked about that? Sergio Omar talks about it all the time. Between training opportunities without parental permission or notification. Insisting that Character First was not affiliated with Goddard. It's always the same with these scum. With former ATI students and IBLP staff reporting incidents like these, it is any surprise that so few choose to use Goddard's materials with their own children. Okay, you guys, I'm going to stop there. I will leave the link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.